Brandon Ingram takes the social media and makes his situation in New Orleans more dramatic. Which current young stars will make it to their 40th birthday in the league? And we pick a non-Celtics champion for this upcoming season right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast. So glad to have you here for the Wednesday show. It's rotating hosts all week long, but on Wednesdays, it's us. I'm John Corrales, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Corrales.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at NolaJake.
Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, you still got plenty of time. All FanDuel customers can get $5. You get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Jake, I cover the Celtics. We're not picking the Celtics. Later on, we're going to pick a champion. We're going to play to recent history. We're going to say Celtics don't win it. We'll pick a champion later. LeBron's playing. He'll turn 40 this year. We're going to figure out which current young stars will be in that 40-year-old club. But your guy, Brandon Ingram, is turning a boring summer into something a little bit more dramatic. We needed some drama in the NBA. We need a little tension. And there he is, not going to summer workouts, posting I think, direct shot at the Pelicans on Instagram. Jake, what's your boy Brandon Ingram doing?
Oh, Brandon Ingram is upset he didn't get a max deal on his extension for the New Orleans Pelicans, and that there wasn't anyone around the league who wanted him to, or also no one else that's what I'm trying to say. I can do this. No one else wanted to give him a max deal because he's eligible for an extension up to $208 million here. And that just hasn't materialized. Otherwise, either New Orleans would have given it to him or he would have been traded, right? This is a team that has a glaring hole at the center position, it seems like. And the natural thing would be to trade Brandon Ingram for that center. And no deal has materialized whatsoever. The Atlanta Hawks didn't want Brandon Ingram in exchange for Clint Capella in the DeJounte Murray trade. We've seen Jared Allen sign a new extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That would be a natural trade target. No one wants to offer him the money, and he seems to be a little bit upset about it, to the point where he posted this on social media the other day. You cannot stay in environments, I'm looking at the video, where people don't know the true value of you. If you stay in environments where people don't recognize the value of you, you will shrink your gift to the size of what they can handle. I don't am I blinking out here as we're recording?
You are blinking, but that's okay.
I have no idea why.
Your bandwidth is reducing to the size that this podcast can handle.
Look, you want to know what everyone wants to reduce is Brandon Ingram's mid-range attempts and just shoot more threes. And this would be problem solved. But you've seen his three-point attempts go down every year in New Orleans. It's not an ideal situation.
So let's play our game here, because I think this could be a big deal.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake Madison posting like this on social media, not just Brandon Ingram, but players unfollowing teams, unfollowing teammates. That is a big deal, a big message, and should be taken seriously.
Okay, so I'm actually going to go fake on this. I don't think this is that big of a deal. We see this all the time, and nothing bad ends up happening. This is a regular occurrence where players post messages with some sort of hidden meaning. Look, what Brandon Ingram is posting there right around his birthday too is clearly a shot maybe at the Pelicans. I don't know, maybe it's at me and Locked On Pelicans. Maybe it's just at the league as a whole for not giving him what he wants, right? Sure, it's a shot. I just don't think it's actually a big deal. If he wants to earn his next contract, he's going to show up to New Orleans and play really good basketball, and that's the way that you earn money. The way he's going to earn the most money on his next contract is by fitting what the Pelicans want to do, which is building around Zion Williamson, because other teams are going to see that. If he goes out and plays hero ball for 30, 35 minutes a night and takes as many shots as he can, no one's going to pay him more money for that sort of thing. So No, he can be upset all he wants, but he's under contract. He's going to show up. He's going to play. They're going to find the best way to try and win games.
I think it's real, buddy. I think it's real. I think in today's NBA, with today's 20-something-year-olds, we forget sometimes, because these guys are such elite athletes, that they are in their mid-20s, most of these guys. And kids in their mid-20s communicate through Instagram posts and sending messages like this. And in the NBA especially, where it is petty, 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 they will absolutely, this is absolutely Brandon Ingram saying, I don't feel appreciated, I don't feel wanted, and I want out. And it's the first steps of, I can make this pretty uncomfortable if you guys don't do something.
Here's the thing with that, though, right? Like, the Pelicans want him out too, at least to an extent, right? Like, this isn't him being like, you need to trade me. They tried to trade him. We've heard about it all off season here, right? Like, I don't know, come in and say, I don't want to be here, trade me. And they're like, yeah, man, we're trying here, right? It's the CJ McCollum, like, I'm trying, Jennifer, reply and everything here.
This actually, to me, it's not even in this specific case, it's not even a bigger deal, because it's, he very clearly wants to be traded. This relationship seems to be at an end. It's that it feels like it's demonstrating a lack of self-awareness, as if he is saying, hey, buddy, I am really good. And he is really good. He's a good basketball player.
Yeah.
He's not, he is part of the problem. And he doesn't think he is. I think the problem is here that he feels like he can keep doing what he's doing, like he's just fine, and they just don't appreciate what he brings. And he hasn't come to the like, hey, I don't fit necessarily with what they're trying to do. Maybe I need to adjust my game a little bit. Maybe I need to take a couple of these summers and really work on, how do I increase my range more efficiently? How do I work within these parameters to be a better player and be more of what they want, so I can get the money, or I can at least play my way into the trade? I don't think that he's evolving. I just think that he wants to do it his way, and he's not learning. And that, to me, is the bigger problem.
Yeah, so that's it to me too, and that's what I'm going to talk about on Locked On Pelicans, which I'm going to go record to talk about this right after this show. It is that, right? Like, I think there's been a lot of backlash against him in New Orleans, where he's almost become like underrated again or something like that, because he's such good of a player. And when you heard him at his end of season media availability, he seemed to like have some self-awareness to it. And I wonder if that's just gone out the window now that he didn't get his money, and now that he's upset. Because look, Zion Williamson, after playing 70 games last season, is going to be the guy that they build around, and you need the other players to fit, and that's just not really Brandon Ingram, unfortunately. And other teams have seen that too. So if you want to get paid, right, if you want a contract, it's not going to be that $208 million deal, but you can still get paid, $180 million, something along those lines, as a complimentary guy. We're going to see contracts like that 4 years in the NBA. And you've got to then go and do it. And he doesn't seem like he wants to do it. It was Shamit Dua, who writes a Substack called In the Know, talking about how, Ingram didn't show up to the offseason workouts where everyone else basically showed up other than Daniel Tice. And like, that doesn't scream self-awareness of, I want to fit in and I want to be there. Now, there's maybe reasons he doesn't want to go and get hurt and anything like that. So that makes a lot of sense. But at the same point, man, like, if you want to show that you can fit in and you can be part of this team, showing up to those would have been a good thing. So usually I don't really get that worried about guys not showing up to voluntary things, but there's definitely a message being sent here, and it's not the right one. I just don't know if New Orleans cares.
Yeah, he should have gone. He should have gone just to say, even if he wants to be like, guys, I'm not risking injury with this, but I'm here. And I think people understand you got to take care of your own business, but not showing up at all, I don't like that. And honestly, if I'm another team, I've already got questions about Brandon Ingram. This doesn't help. If I'm another team and I sit here, And I go, maybe a change of scenery would work. And I see that. I'm like, well, that doesn't tell me that he's willing to adapt to a new situation. Doesn't tell me any of that stuff. So no, this hurts more than it helps, buddy. It hurts more than it helps. And all that means is if you ain't getting traded, you got to learn how to play in New Orleans. You can't sit out. You can't hold out. So you better figure things out really fast. This situation is getting worse. And even if the relationship is ending, he has to come to the table with some sort of, all right, I'm going to give you guys this for the time being. And like, what do we need to do to get this break? And it's not pout and post cryptic Instagram stuff. That's for sure. So Brandon Ingram's 27 years old. Does he have 13 more years in his career? I don't know. Who does? Who has the ability to play until they're 40? We'll examine that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And now there's something a little bit different for you over on FanDuel, because now through September 22nd, all you got to do is bet $5 and they give you a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And one of the cool things with Google and YouTube TV, where they have like the 4, you can now watch 4 games at once. So if you get this NFL Sunday Ticket and you want to watch those 4, you can put 4 out of market games on there and just flip to the one. It's so your own personal red zone. So it's super cool way to get a little taste of that. So just go to FanDuel.com, place that $5 bet, and you get that 3 trial. Make sure you're downloading FanDuel app, or go to FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Pelicans. Go check out Locked On Celtics. Go check out the Locked On for every one of these teams, because we're going to be talking about a lot of different teams, a lot of different players, and they're all talking about these subjects. So there's one for every NBA team. There's one for every NFL team, college.
We got everybody covered.
We got like everybody, MLB, everybody covered. So go check that out across the whole network. It's super great. LeBron James is going to turn 40 in December. Steph Curry just signed a contract that brings him to 39. There are a few players here in the league that are right on the cusp of turning 40. Taj Gibson, Chris Paul, PJ Tucker, Al Horford is 38. So I got to wondering here, Jake, which of these young players, and I'm not talking about like, is Mike Conley going to make it to 40? He's got 4 more years. Which of these young players, the younger stars in the NBA, will have the longevity to play till their 40th birthday?
Okay. I'm jumping in here. It's the off season. We're building up the routine.
We're getting our reps together.
Yeah. I've been traveling. I got back in New Orleans today. Okay. So I have 2, and I thought about this a lot, and I shied away from like certain kind of players, and those were just in particular like bigs. Like you could easily claim Victor Wembanyama is going to do this, but big men can get those like foot injuries that just derail careers, right? Like
do this.
No, right? Like those are the type of things that like scare you. So you want, like, to me, it kind of was like a guard or a wing type of player. So I gravitated towards 2, and I have a third one that's kind of like a sneaky one. So the first 2 guys are Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm kind of picking just lead guards, the guys on 2 teams. I think Anthony Edwards is 23, Halliburton's 24. They're guys that you're going to build around. They're going to have, good teammates, I think, and that's going to help them go a little bit further. The other thing, though, is I'm looking at them like a la Jason Kidd, who played a certain way and then completely adapted his game when his athleticism started to go away, and that was by shooting threes, essentially. Like he went from a dude who never took threes to being in the top like 5 of 3-point attempts, 3-pointers made, and like 3-point percentage, at the end of his career, which is kind of crazy to think about. Halliburton and Edwards shoot the three pretty well, right? Like that's, I think, a big thing with it that will add a lot of longevity to their career. Edwards in particular, I also picked because you want someone that's going to take good care of his body, that like really kind of has that, like, I'm a professional, I do all of the right things, that LeBron James figured out as his career went on. Edwards has that kind of killer instinct mentality where he wants to be the best. And that probably means during the offseason, he's investing in every way he can to keep his body in like tip top shape. That's going to help your longevity too. So those are kind of the two guys that I really see playing till they're 40.
So I disagree on Edwards. I get your reasoning. I understand, like he's in phenomenal shape. He right now, he depends so much on his athleticism that it puts him at risk for an injury. First of all, those big, it's like the John Morant types who, even Halliburton to a degree, but I'm trying to like, would Shai Gilgeous-Alexander have that longevity? He could, but these guys who drive a lot and get to the rim and get fouled a lot, you're getting hit, you're getting dropped, you're falling a lot. It puts a lot of wear and tear on your body. And
does it help that like Halliburton doesn't play defense, and that probably like adds to you like the less wear and tear
one side
on your
of the
body.
Floor, it's not going to tax him at all. But I feel like Edwards, first of all, Edwards is going to make also a ton of money. So is he going to play? Does he have that love for the game? Yeah, maybe. He doesn't have that versatility, positional versatility. When I look at who's going to last a long time, I want somebody who's going to morph. I want somebody who has the ability at 36 to play 4 more years at maybe a different type of style, a different type of position, maybe that can just change his game a little bit. And I don't know that Edwards is going to do that. Halliburton has a shot at it, but I just think his shot is so wonky. I don't know if I trust it long enough to give him that longevity. I'm sticking with Boston, and I'm going Jason Tatum because he has the type of build. He plays currently on the perimeter, and he's going to continue to play on the perimeter for a while. He's durable so far, knock on wood. He hasn't had any major injuries. The biggest thing he's had, I think, was a long COVID absence at one point. So he so far has avoided any major types of injury. He drives, but he doesn't like constantly fall. And because of his size, he's 6'9", almost 6'10", and he's got the big broad shoulders. I think he has the ability to shift from a 3 to a 4 to, even if he wants to, a 5 down the road, depending on how the league goes. But the biggest issue with any of these guys, like I brought up with Anthony Edwards, they're all going to make $500, $600 million. Like these guys are going to be making ungodly amounts of money. Tatum, Edwards, the big endorsers, they're going to make $1 billion with a B when you combine everything by the time everything's said and done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Does that make you be like, yeah, I want to keep balling, or be like, nah, at 36, 37, be like, yeah, you know what? I've got so much money. I'm going to buy the league, buy into a team or something and just be done with it.
So let me ask you this with Tatum. One of the things we haven't talked about here, we're just talking about playing till you're 40, but Tatum conceivably going to be on a very good team. We're going to not pick them to win the title in the next segment, but he's got 513 regular season games, 113 in the postseason already in his career. And that number's like not going to slow down, it feels like, anytime soon. Does that give you any concern with it too? Just the amount of like playoff games that like, we don't really think about that, right? Like that's a season and a half worth of playoff games that he's played.
Yeah. It does feel like there's going to be some kind of toll to pay at some point, right? Like, he's Team USA. Presumably he's going to go back in 4 years and try that again. He'll have theoretically another couple of deep playoff runs, and then who knows? Maybe things tail off as Boston rebuilds, and who knows what his future is there. The other question is, does he bounce around? Do any of these guys go into a bounce around mode? Does that turn them into maybe they retire a little bit early? LeBron is a freak of nature. A lot of these guys who maybe play forever nowadays are going to play 5-6 teams. And I don't know if they're going to want to play for that 5th or 6th team after making as much money as they have.
Yeah, that's a good point with it too.
Yeah, so I don't know. Kevin Willis played until he was 44, almost 45. Robert Parrish played until he was almost 44. Vince Carter just retired recently at 43. I don't know if we're going to see those guys again. I don't know if we're going to see guys play until they're 44. It's
going to be tough, right? Like it's going to be really tough for that to be the case. There's just too much money. There's just no need for them to do that unless they truly love the game. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Like who's just like a freak that like just only loves basketball and has no other interest. That's how someone plays till they're 40, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be like the only guy I can think of, just again, from a Boston perspective, is a guy like Peyton Pritchard, but it is going to be like a weird guy like that. It's going to be one of those guys that just will not quit, but can shoot. And maybe not Peyton Pritchard himself because he's smaller, and that's going to end up being too much of a liability.
My other one was going to be Keegan Murray of the Kings. That's my like sneaky one, right? Like a defender, like a 3-and-D kind of guy that doesn't have high usage on offense, but shoots the 3 well. And you're like, yeah, there's no reason he won't have a spot for a long time.
As long as the corner 3-pointer exists, a guy like Herb Jones could be. Who knows? If you're, especially if you're in that middle ground and you just keep bouncing around because somebody's going to give you a couple $1 million to, the minimum to play. Like, hey, sure, if I can hit a couple of shots, somebody's going to be another PJ Tucker. So that exists. But even then, even these mid-range, these middle of the salary cap guys, the middle class, those guys are going to be making 10, 12, 15, $20 million a year as the cap continues to increase. Even they are like, yeah, I've made my money. I got $100 million that I made. I got whatever banked. I got millions banked. Like, I'm good. So I don't know. I guess this is to say that the 40-year-old player is just not going to be happening. I don't think like it has been. Again, these guys, they've been, there are a lot of guys who are on the verge of 40. I don't know if we're going to have that moving forward. All right. We're going to move forward with the champion. Who is going to win the championship this upcoming season? With the caveat, it's not the Boston Celtics. We'll do that in just a second. Jake, Joe Mazzulla at in a recent interview said that, he's looking at the past 6 champions. They haven't made it out of the second round. He's like, I got to try to figure out what the mental block is that keeps you from getting out of that second round. Let's pretend here for this that he doesn't figure it out. The trend continues. Adam Silver's parity reigns, and the Boston Celtics, who are the heavy favorites and basically everybody's pick to win, or the favorites to win the championship. Let's say they fall short. Who will win the championship if it's not the Boston Celtics?
So I have 2 reasons for picking this team, and one of them is to kind of like save my own butt in the future should they actually win the title here. And I'll explain that in a minute. That is the New York Knicks. I'm actually like a big believer in that team. Like I like this Knicks team. I think they've got the just like right type of fun vibes. Like they all love each other. They all played together in college. You're adding Julius Randle, who I think is an underrated player, back into this. I don't think Tibbs is running this team into the ground just yet. So if the Celtics don't get out of the second round, maybe it's the Knicks beat them, right? Like, and we've talked about how the Knicks could present a bit of a challenge for the Boston Celtics.
Sure.
I think the Knicks really could get in there, and I think they have a little bit of flexibility to make another move or two, even if it's small, during the regular season. I think it could be the Knicks. Like, I really do. Something about just all of those guys having been teammates in college, having the right kind of like good vibes around them, I think is going to carry them pretty far. Playing for a grueling head coach, and they seem to love it, right? Like, Josh Hart is the perfect Thibodeau kind of player, and he just does all of that dirty work. Again, Randall can be great. Brunson's great. Like, they have the right kind of balance of everything. Anunoby on that team is like 13-3 or whatever it is. It's pretty absurd. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I kind of believe in that Knicks team. Also, I'm saying this because of a couple of years ago, I think it was the year the Nuggets won the title. It might've been the year before that. You know how like on Twitter, everyone's like my NBA finals prediction, and it's like the day before the finals. And I was like, my NBA finals prediction is you won't see the Knicks in there for a really long time. And I became like the main character on like Knicks Twitter. And like that tweet is bookmarked by a lot of people here. So if they do win the title, like I'm gonna have to like almost deactivate Twitter for a minute here. So I'm saying I really like this Knicks team, and I think they're very capable of winning. And I would just like to have that on the record somewhere.
Okay, look, not out of the question. It's
no, like I don't think that's like a bad
out of
pick.
The question. We're all picking good teams with a chance to win, so it is not out of the question. It's not the first team that I thought you would pick. I do question their ability to get through 4 rounds of NBA basketball, but hey, never know. I am not 100% sold that Jalen Brunson can do that again, because what he did was so incredible, so outrageously good that I don't know if he has that in him again.
That's valid. Like, I think the concerns about them are totally fair. Yeah.
So, and it's not a knock on what Jalen Brunson is as a player. He's an amazing, what he did last season and in the playoffs was so outrageous as the Isaiah Thomas Boston Celtics 2017, which also was like, how long can this magic carpet ride go? Because I knew back that like this is not sustainable. But hey, if he can keep it going, then more power to him. Then great. Then they have a chance. You need some things to go right. You need the Julius Randle extension thing, contract year Julius to be a real like plus for them. You need OG Anunoby to be healthy. You need the Mikal Bridges thing to work out, and you need him to kind of like continue. So there are things, but every champion needs to have things go great. They need some luck. So sure, not out of the question. My pick, I just feel like, and this is also a big question mark based on if Jamal Murray can figure things out, but I just got to go with the best player and Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. I feel like with Jokic, I know that they lost KCP and they're really teetering on the edge of wasting his best years by being cheap. But I still think he's so good that the guys that they have that are already very well versed in how to play with one another. If Murray's kind of slippage is strictly injury related and he is on his way back to being somewhat of his normal self, then the Nuggets are going to be hard to beat in a playoff series because Jokic is just too damn good. So I got to believe that. And I know the West is stacked, but I just feel like he's enough to win it again.
Yeah, he's, I think, the best player in the league. Look what he did for Serbia, in the Olympics this summer. That says, just to the depth of his ability. I just don't believe in Murray. Like, I don't believe in Murray at all right now. Like, I'm off that train. It kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier, right? The defending champion not getting out of the second round 6 years in a row. And they didn't last year because they were worse than the year before. And I think they're worse again than they were last year, this year. So I get buying into Jokic and believing in him. I just can't. Like, that's not a team that I would have picked at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get past Jokic. OKC is in the mix. I've said on this podcast before, there's a piece of me, like, obviously all of these teams are very good. So again, any one of these teams can win. Just because I didn't pick it doesn't mean that they can't. And I'm not like dissing these guys. I feel like they are one of the candidates to take a little bit of a step back because guys are going to want a little bit more. They're a little too young to continue the unselfishness. I think there's going to be a little natural, like, oh, we're all in the spotlight now. And I think, there might be a couple of guys who are like, well, everybody on this team understands that I'm like now also the man. So they will all understand that me going for it. But a lot of guys are going to be thinking that, and they're going to be like, what do you mean? Like, no, I'm the man. Why do you think you're the man? And there's going to be like a little bit of just a tiny bit that can just throw it off. I fear that for OKC. And
yeah, they're untested, right? Like they got to kind of prove it before I think people start taking. I think it's interesting. Neither of us mentioned the Mavericks, who just made the finals.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking that neither of us mentioned Dallas. Neither of us mentioned Philly.
Philly, I think the Knicks are just better than them. So like if I'm kind of stack ranking the East, I'm going to put the Knicks ahead of them. So like I'll pick the Knicks over them. With Dallas, I think that run they went on after the trade deadline is a little unsustainable over the course of a season. And they got fairly exposed against, an incredible Celtics team, I thought, in the finals. And so that makes me a little bit more down on them. I think they're going to be obviously an automatic playoff team. They're going to be good. They probably finished in the top 4 in the West, but I'm not ready to be like, you're a title contender, even though they're coming off of a finals and they have a top 4 guy in the league in Luka Doncic.
I feel like it will be Dallas if Doncic went back home this summer, looked at it honestly and said, part of the reason why I couldn't make it through the season is I don't always take the best care of my body. And, it's funny to like heading into that series, we got that image of Doncic with the beer and the walk up and take the beer away type of thing. And he's like, okay. If he can like understand that there's a reason why that happened and that the sublime, incredible, unteachable talent that he has can be made so much more effective by taking better care of your body and being a little bit more focused on things like that. And you can last longer. You can play with fewer kind of nagging injuries, and maybe you can be a little bit of a better defender, a little bit better, just a passable defender without like, you don't have to sacrifice on that end to keep your energy for the offensive end. If he can like realize that and come back with like a little bit of a refocused energy, then Dallas has the potential to win the championship, even in this hype, without the hypothetical of, oh, we can't pick Boston.
Yeah. So look, there's a reason neither of us picked Doncic to play until he's 40, right? Same with Jokic too, right? Like, there's a reason we didn't pick that. That's gonna be one of the biggest things that I think maybe holds them back. Again, I still have questions about them at the center position. Derek Lively II's great, but I don't think you're going to see the same level of play from him over the course of a season. He came on late. Can he do that over 82 games? Gafford was a no-show in the postseason, like at all. He got very few minutes at times. So I'm just not in it as I am on some of the teams in the East, to be just truthful.
Sure. No, that's fair enough. West is going to be a buzzsaw, obviously, so there's going to be a lot of attrition. The team that does make it out of the West is, going to have their health meter is going to be halfway used, and the team out of the East might not. It could be a very similar situation to what the Celtics did last year, where that Eastern Conference team, Boston or not Boston, will come in and be like, were they really pushed? And that's just how it is. Like that first round, even maybe a second round, may not be as difficult for the East, or definitely won't be as difficult for the Eastern Conference champion as it will be for a West that's going to be basically 1 through 8 separated by 4 games, right?
Basically like it was somewhat this past season. Yeah. West is brutal. Sucks.
It's going to be tough. So it's going to be hard. The reticence to pick a Western Conference team is noted. So who knows? Still going to be Boston, though.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We really do appreciate it. Look, the season comes around in a couple of weeks. The preseason opens in Abu Dhabi, like at the end of the month. It's right here. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast here. We're still 5 days a week. And on Wednesday, it's us. I'm John Corrales. I host the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Corrales.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans, on Twitter at NolaJake.
Nick Angstead and Pat, the designer, got the show tomorrow. It's a fun show with them, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you're subscribed everywhere you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube, and then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.